Hello again, everyone. Hopefully, we're feeling at least as good as we can be coming off of that first exam last week. This week, we're going to be moving on into our second unit where we are getting into what is, in many ways, the premier material of pre-calculus. There's stuff we do at the beginning and end of this semester that you might not always see in any pre-calc class anywhere in the world, but if we're not introducing what we get to here in pre-calculus, I don't know when it comes up. Because here, we're getting into ideas with angles and trigonometry, where we're starting in 4.1 with some of the basic definitions there in terms of like what an angle represents, as well as some applications for things like arc length and linear speed. And then in 4.2, we're going to work with what is probably the most fundamental construction of trigonometry, the unit circle, where through the unit circle, we're going to talk more about some of those special angles, as well as introduce the trigonometric functions, as well as some of the basic relationships between them. And then in 4.3, we're going to develop that further in terms of the place that you're probably most familiar with trig functions, the right triangle. So we're going to focus again on some of the very special angles, some of the ratios we have between trig functions dealing with right triangles, and basically all of the essential things that you can do with the trig functions in terms of the friendliest of our constructions, finishing off with some applications in terms of angles of elevation and depression. Then for this week, we are going to be moving back into a pretty standard rhythm, starting with an assignment here. That's our worksheet for the week. I don't know why I said it that way, and it's recordings, it happens. Anyway, we're going to have that worksheet. Then we have assignments in my lab that are due next week, just like we did before. And from there, we have a pre-assessment for continuing to develop into chapters 4 and 5, along with our first exam challenge problem, where, again, these are extra credit. I don't usually talk too much about extra credit in these videos, but because the first one, I want to make sure we see it. This is going to be a chance for people to think about things maybe in a way that's a little more complex than what we'd normally get, maybe a little bit more subtle. For this class in particular, I usually tend towards things that are a bit more mathematical logic based. And it's a little bit more not subtle, again, I already said that, but it's the sort of thing that I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable putting on an exam for the fact that it's a little bit out of bounds for this class. But I think with the sort of things we're developing here, it's important to see some of those fundamentals before we move on. Anyway, that's what we got for this week. That's our due dates. That's our set of things. So let's jump on in here and get to work in our second unit with chapter 4. See you in there.